This review is made possible by Ultimo Motors in Warrenville. Ultimo Motors' 55,000 square foot showroom is filled with some of the most luxurious vehicles on the market. Visit www.ultimomotors.com to browse their impressive inventory and pick the right car for you. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2020 BMW M2 Competition. Up front is a 3.0 liter inline 6 that is turbocharged, and down below is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US. But let's get back to that inline 6. Well, this is sort of BMW's signature engine. They always do straight sixes with a turbo now. That's sort of been their bread and butter for the last couple of years. But I absolutely love it here in the competition. This is the standard M4 engine that has been shoved into this smaller chassis, and I absolutely love it. It's such a blast to drive. It is by far my favorite car on sale right now, and we'll talk about that later on. Right now, I'll get a little bit of noise for you as we come over the hill. Oh, it's so beautiful. It doesn't really sound like a whole lot. It didn't really bark or bite at me, but it just, it's so good. It's so good. It's such a smooth power band. I always sort of relate BMW straight sixes to rotary engines because it's just smooth all the way up to the top. It just wants to rev to the moon. And the only reason you stop is you look down and you're doing a $120 and you start freaking out. That's the only reason you really have to stop with this car, is the law. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 7-speed automatic. It's a dual clutch. And what's kind of weird, or at least weird for me, is that it doesn't creep at stoplights. You take your foot off the brake, no gas, it doesn't move at all. And that's because it is a twin clutch, which is fine. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. I'm just not quite used to that. Most cars creep forward when you take your foot off the brake, even a lot of twin clutches that I have driven. So it is a weird quirk of the transmission, but the transmission is so quick. You can shift it on the paddles if you want. It's great. It's absolutely great. And last but not least, of course, the M2 is rear wheel drive. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two gauges. I always praise BMW. They always have very clear, very concise, uncluttered gauges, and that's the same idea here. It's really, really clean and concise. I can see everything very, very clearly, and I do have a little M2 logo. On the left, I have my speedometer, which is very, very clean. I think this is one of the most minimalist speedometers I've ever seen in a car, and I absolutely love it, with fuel down at the bottom. And then on the right, I have my tachometer, again, very minimalist, and I have a little charge gauge. This is BMW's energy efficient gauge that they put in a lot of their stuff. I don't care, it's whatever. In the center, I do get a little readout giving me the outside temperature, miles till empty, speed limit of the road, and my odometer. On the steering wheel, which it is a leather-wrapped steering wheel, feels very, very nice. I do have my cruise control options on the left, as well as my M button. We'll get to that later on. And then on the right, I have my voice commands, volume, things for the radio. I do also have paddle shifters, which are a very nice size on the back of the steering wheel, which it's just, altogether, the steering wheel feel is absolutely great. It's a little bit large for my liking, but besides that, it's overall, it's awesome. To the left of me, I just have my headlights, which is a lot of the rest of this interior is gonna be very typical BMW. I've driven a lot of BMWs. I think it's one of my most reviewed manufacturers here on the channel. And a lot of this is pretty plug and play from other BMWs. So we have the lane keep assist on the left, as well as on the door, we have our power windows and power mirrors. In the center, we do have a very nice display. It's using the same BMW software you'll find in the 1 Series, 2 Series, 5 Series. It's all the same. So it does have Apple CarPlay, which I personally prefer. I think it's really just the best system you can have in a car. Android Auto as well, things like that. It's a very basic infotainment system, but it works. It does everything you need it to, and that's all you really need. Down below that, I do have my radio buttons and my favorite buttons. Now, the thing I really like about BMWs is that they have 8 different favorite buttons, but that doesn't just pertain to the radio. You can have these buttons set to be navigation points or other settings within the car, which I really, really like. It gives it a ton of customization, and really you can make the car your own. Then I do have my climate controls. Pretty basic here. We do have heated seats, which is really nice. We'll talk about the seats in a little bit. We do have dual zone climate, so that is really nice as well. Again, pretty typical BMW here. Then down in the center, we do have 2 cup holders that kind of hide away, and we have our shifter. Well, first we'll talk about what's left of the shifter. We have traction control off, pretty standard there. Then we have a couple different modes, Efficient, Sport, and Sport Plus, which really opens up the exhaust. Oh, it's so good. We'll leave it in efficient for now, but it's so good. Then we actually have 3 different modes for steering, Comfort, Sport Plus, and Sport, which I'll leave it just in Comfort, but that's really nice that you can tighten up the steering feel if you really want to. If you're on a back road, a curvy road, what have you, you can really tighten up the steering and give it a lot better of a feel than just your regular commute. Then we do have the parking sensors on and off, a very useful button. And then we have the shifter. I don't like the shifter. Now, I have driven a 6-speed. I love the 6-speed. It feels great, drives great. But this, it's just a little bit weird to get used to. In order to park it, there is no park button. You leave it in drive and then you just pull the handbrake, which is just, it's very odd to do in an automatic car. It's more like a manual car. So if you're not used to manual transmissions, this may be very odd for you. But that being said, I can't really complain. I think this dual clutch does great. And if I have to deal with a wonky shifter, I have to deal with a wonky shifter. Now, the seats are nice and comfortable. They do say M2 on them. I like that touch. They do have a lot higher bolsters than the regular 2 Series, which I do have a review of a regular all-wheel drive, pretty much base model 2 Series on the channel. I'll leave that at the end of the video. But these seats are a lot nicer. They hold you better. Like I said, they are power, they are memory, and they are heated. So pretty much everything you need out of a modern seat you have here in the M2 Competition. So, reluctantly, this car does have a back seat, so we will do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2020 BMW M2 Competition. I have the seat pretty much all the way up, as you can see. The back seats are tiny. I'll show you over here. I mean, that's how much room we're working with standard. I can fit my arm through there. That's about it. These back seats are really only if you need them. If you need them, if you have to drive, 2 more people, you can do it, but it's not great. This is really a coupe. It just has back seats just for the sake of it. They're not really usable in any way. But I didn't show it before. The seat belts actually have these really nice M sort of stitching on them. I'm sure someone's going to retrofit them into their E36 that's clapped out with a busted subframe. But they're really nice here in the M2 Competition. Now let's talk about the looks because they're awesome. Now we have to talk about the looks. This car is stunning. I love the wheels. It's part of the competition package. I love the color. I love the accents. I love absolutely everything about the look of this car. I think it's proportioned perfectly. It is wider than the standard 2 Series. It gets a wide body kit, if you really want to call it. It has more flared fenders than the standard 2 Series. I absolutely love that. I think overall this is one of the best looking cars ever made. It looks so correct, and it looks, it looks really well thought out, and I just absolutely love that aspect of it. And that is why, we'll get to my final talking point. The reason the video is titled this way is why this is the best car on sale right now. And the only reason I say on sale right now is because I just have a love of RX-7s, and I think personally that is my favorite car ever. But if the RX-7 didn't exist, this would literally be the best car ever made, ever, by anyone at any point in time. That is how much I love the M2. It is proportioned perfectly. It's small enough, it's nimble, it's light, but it has over 400 horsepower. which is, if you can't have fun with 400 horsepower, there's something physically and clinically wrong with you. I absolutely love everything about this. It feels very size-wise similar to like an E36 or even an E30, the 80s generation of 3 Series. You know, it was a lot smaller and thinner because there were less safety regulations, and it felt light back in the 80s. And now the 3 Series is big and it's heavy. It's still powerful and fun, but it's big and heavy now. This feels light, it feels nimble, and just everything about this car is exactly perfect the way I would want it, besides that shifter and maybe bigger back seats, but even then it's a coupe. It doesn't need bigger back seats. That's the whole point of a coupe is, you know, if you have a small child, you can chuck them, well, don't chuck a child, but if you have kids, you can put them in the back. Everything about this car is right. If I were to buy one of these, I would find it in that nice blue color. I don't know the specific name of it. They came in these really nice blues. If I ever win the lottery or make it big, this is going to be my first automotive purchase. And realistically, it would have to be my last, because what's better than this? I genuinely don't know anything better than this. I've driven a lot of fun cars here on the channel. An old Acura NSX from the 90s, a ton of FD RX-7s, an Audi R8 in manual. Just last week, I drove a C63 AMG with the Twin Turbo V8. I would take this. It's just proportioned well. I can live with it, and I would buy it, put decent tires on it, and never touch it or modify it ever again. I would just drive the absolute wheel bearings off of it until it collapses in on itself, because I think this is genuinely one of the most perfect stock cars ever made. I don't think it needs a tune. Maybe a slightly louder exhaust, maybe, but that sport mode really livens it up. I mean, at one point, it's just abuse of my neighbors. I absolutely love this car. It is by far my favorite modern car, and that's just it. That's all I could say about it. It's just literally the best. So, huge thank you to Ultima Motors in Warrenville. They are absolutely awesome. They have so many cool cars in stock. Literally, it is a candy store every time you walk in. They have so much cool stuff in stock. I mean, I'll show some video here. Absolutely amazing. They have great customer service. Their information is not only up on the screen, but is linked in the description below. Check out their inventory. They're always getting new stuff in, and they always get cool new stuff in. I mean, they have cars there that I've never seen in person before. So they're absolutely awesome, and they're totally awesome for letting me take out their M2 Competition. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. Aside from my soul, aside